But here's the truth. You're not going to get health care to these people by threatening to tax and eat the rich. You raise billionaires' taxes, they just leave the state. Or they leave the country. Or in some cases, the planet. I kid Elon, but he had a good idea recently that might be apropos here. During the recent government shutdown, he volunteered to pay all the TSA workers himself, with couch money. That's how super rich our super rich are. They can single-handedly fund entire government programs. Okay, so let's make that a thing. The Adopt a Cause challenge for billionaires.
I think, to be fair, this is actually...
I was being fair.
No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing... Let me finish. I'll give you a chance. The cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at Democratic states, you go to look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party.
Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani have been shouting tax the rich like it's their go-to-battle cry. But Maher says they're living in a fantasy. On the latest Real Time, the straight-talking comedian went after Bernie and his crew for pushing America's wealthy straight out the door. It wasn't just a rant, it was a full-on blow-up. So hit that subscribe button and let's dive right in.
New rule, someone has to explain the American economy to me. I know I've said this before, I still don't get it. Last week was tax day, and as usual, because HBO is so generous, and I'm sure so will be the new owners, I paid to the government, if you add in state tax, local sales, property, fees, Obamacare, probably almost 60% of what I earn. That's a lot, and I still wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders would stop saying the rich don't pay taxes. And while I'm sure the super rich with their army of accountants and corporate loopholes get away with murder, us regular rich people pay a ton of taxes.
Maher comes out swinging. No warm-up, no small talk, just a straight punch at Bernie Sanders and his decade-long broken record that the rich somehow don't pay their fair share. And Maher isn't talking from some cheap seat in the crowd. He's living it. The man is wealthy, and every single year he writes the government a check for more than half of everything he makes. More than half. So when Bernie climbs back on his soapbox for the 10,000th time and calls the wealthy freeloaders who dodged the bill, Maher takes that personally, and rightfully so, because the facts don't match Bernie's bedtime story. The villain Bernie has been selling to his army of true believers for over a decade simply doesn't exist. Maher's message is brutal in its simplicity. Before you point fingers at the rich, learn how to read a tax return. The rich are already paying. And in Maher's case, they're paying through the nose.
The top 10% pay 72% of all federal income taxes, and the bottom half, 3%. The Democratic Socialists talk about socialism like we don't already have a lot. Social Security, unemployment, Medicare, nutritional assistance, Medicaid, Obamacare, disability, housing subsidies. Again, not against it, just the same question. How can you be soaking the rich and failing the poor so badly?
And that's exactly why the wealthy are packing their bags, calling the movers, and flat out leaving high-tax states. Because they're watching their hard-earned money disappear into a bottomless pit and getting absolutely nothing back in return. Look no further than California, the gold medal winner of government failure. The state squeezes its residents dry, hitting them with some of the highest tax rates in the entire country. And what do people get for it? Garbage piled up on sidewalks, fire hydrants with no water when wildfires are burning down entire neighborhoods. Homeless camps spread across every major city like they're a permanent part of the scenery. Schools falling apart and infrastructure slowly crumbling piece by piece. The money keeps flowing in, but the fixes never show up. And the people writing the biggest checks have finally had enough. So they're doing the only thing that makes sense, voting with their feet and getting out while they can.
I've looked at moving because I'd like to keep more of my money too.
And how many people moved out of your state, California?
Oh, I know. No,
Under Newsom?
Yeah, no. People do move.
A
There's no
million.
doubt about that. People move in America, and you're right.
No, but they're not moving because they want a better view. They like to keep more of their money
Yes,
that
that's
they
true.
earn.
Yeah, that's true.
Florida is a really good case study. So when DeSantis became governor, there were 250,000 more registered Democrats in Florida when he became governor 8 years ago. Now there's 1.4 million more registered Republicans in Florida. That's all migration from COVID and re-registration from COVID, 100%.
Right.
So it absolutely is happening.
Here's where it stops being about policy and gets surprisingly personal. This isn't some distant debate for Maher. This is his actual life. The man is genuinely thinking about packing up and walking away from California, the state he has called home for decades. The reason practically writes itself. He's wealthy. He pays a small fortune in taxes every year, and the state around him keeps falling apart right in front of his eyes. Nothing improves. Nothing changes. Money goes in, dysfunction comes out, repeat forever. And Maher isn't alone on this island. Plenty of people have already made the move and physically left California for neighboring states, escaping a tax burden that delivers somewhere between very little and absolutely nothing at all. And we're not just talking about Hollywood elites and tech billionaires. We're talking about regular working families who finally hit their breaking point. When even the guy who defends taxes on national television is thinking about leaving, you don't need a focus group to tell you that something has gone seriously and completely off the rails in California.
Here's the truth. You're not going to get health care to these people by threatening to tax and eat the rich. You raise billionaires' taxes, they just leave the state. Or they leave the country. Or in some cases, the planet. I kid Elon, but he had a good idea recently that might be apropos here. During the recent government shutdown, he volunteered to pay all the TSA workers himself, with couch money. That's how super rich our super rich are. They can single-handedly fund entire government programs. Okay, so let's make that a thing. The Adopt a Cause challenge for billionaires.
Now let's keep this honest. It's a wrecking ball swinging at the goose laying the golden egg. Taxes instead of grandstanding for more. And yes, the wealthy should absolutely contribute. These politicians should pick up a magnifying glass and follow the money already collected. Where did the trillions go? Who fumbled it? The rich are already writing checks. Plug the leak before you crank the faucet. Basic plumbing so massive that people are uprooting their entire lives and leaving the country. Not just the neighborhood. Is arguing the rich should ride for free. So piling taxes are the price of admission to a civilized society. Isn't bold or visionary or the wealthy should absolutely chip in. But here's the inconvenient little truth. Bernie, AOC, instead of screaming for more, maybe the rich are already cutting checks the size of small national budgets. The money that's already been collected. That people are uprooting their entire lives, leaving the country, not just the zip code, rather than write another one. So stacking even more taxes on top of that isn't bold.
Teachers who buy school supplies with their own money, or people without homes, or disaster victims, whatever it is, make the rich fucks competitive about solving it, because that's all they care about anyway, beating each other. Yeah. Just skip the middleman, the government and the healthcare bureaucracies that, for whatever reason, no matter how much they take in, never seem to get enough to the people, and just shame the billionaires into doing it directly because they have all the money, and noblesse oblige isn't just the name of a cologne.
Then Maher drops an idea so refreshing it almost sounds illegal in modern politics. Instead of bleeding billionaires dry through an endless line of new taxes, why not actually put their money to work in a way everyone can see, directly with a name attached? Assign them a problem. Make one billionaire personally responsible for cleaning up the homeless crisis off the streets. Hand another one the fire hydrants and the water systems. Give one the crumbling schools and another the trash-filled roads. Suddenly, every dollar has a face, a fingerprint, and a scoreboard. You could actually see whether the money is working. Because right now, the government is swallowing billions, and nobody on Earth can tell you where any of it ends up. It just vanishes into the black hole of bureaucracy. Maher's point cut straight to the bone. Transparency and direct accountability would do more for America in 1 year than another blank check handed to politicians ever has or ever will.
To be fair, this is actually...
I was being fair.
No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing... Let me finish. I give you a chance. Cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at Democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party.
And don't make the mistake of thinking California is some weird, isolated case. It's not. It's just one chapter in a much bigger and much uglier book. Just look across the country to New York. Same script, same disaster, different zip code. Democrat governor, Democrat mayor, oceans of tax money pouring in every single second. And what do residents get back? Working cities and functioning services? Yeah, keep dreaming. They wake up to housing prices so out of control that families who have lived in their neighborhoods for generations are getting pushed out of their own communities. Inflation keeps grinding their wallets down to nothing. The streets don't feel safe. Crime has quietly become a normal part of daily life in New York. The politicians keep promising change, demanding more taxes, and pointing the same accusing finger at the wealthy, while life on the ground tells a story that makes their speeches sound like pure fiction. Two of the biggest and richest states in America, broken in almost exactly the same way.
Do you think that Mamdani's election will lead more financial organizations to leave New York City for Wall Street South in Florida? Tell me, I've read that term just recently, Wall Street South, Florida. This is your state. What is that?
A lot of Wall Street guys have moved to Palm Beach. It's been happening really since COVID. It's accelerated with increases in taxes. It's not just out of New York. It's New Jersey, Connecticut, it's Chicago, it's California.
So they're fleeing high tax blue states for Florida.
Now let's get the details right, because this is where sloppy commentary falls apart. The great wealth exodus is centered in two places, New York and California. Those are ground zero for the tax flight crisis. But people moving around isn't the same story everywhere. Take Chicago. Yes, people are leaving. New Jersey too. But here's the part that gets ignored in the rush to make a hot take. Those people aren't running from crushing tax bills. They're moving for the normal, everyday reasons people have always moved. Warmer weather, more space, a fresh start, a change of scenery. That's just life. What's happening in New York and California is something else entirely, and it's a much louder warning sign. That's a deliberate and calculated rejection of failed tax policies that keep taking more and giving absolutely nothing back.
Got elected because his district is going to explode. My house, I live 8 miles outside of Queens, has gone up 20% in value since Mamdani announced. Okay? Because people aren't going to pay the punishing taxes. New York is the highest tax state in the union.
But you said your house value's gone up.
Yeah, because they're moving to Nassau County.
Oh, they're moving out of the city.
Out of the city, and they can still take the train back in the city and not pay the millionaire's tax or whatever crazy thing this guy wants. But what people don't understand is he can't raise the taxes unless the state okays it. And the state is not going to okay it.
But buckle up, because here's the bitter little plot twist nobody on the left wants to go anywhere near. The wealthy fleeing these high-tax states aren't just escaping their own problem. They're shipping that problem to brand new addresses. Texas, Florida, and Tennessee rolled out the welcome mat, pulled in by friendly tax environments and reasonable costs of living. Sounds great. Until the millionaires and billionaires came pouring in like a tidal wave. Suddenly, housing prices are going up, the cost of living is going up, and the regular working class people who built those communities are getting pushed out of their own neighborhoods. The exact nightmare people were running away from is now showing up at their new front door, suitcase in hand. That is the ripple effect of tax the rich politics. A chain reaction that nobody on Bernie's team wants to admit is real. The damage doesn't politely stay inside California's and New York's borders. It travels, it spreads. And ordinary hardworking Americans in states that had nothing to do with these reckless policies are the ones left holding the bill.
Democrats used to own Silicon Valley. Those California do-gooder liberals who wanted to save the planet. Yeah, right. Trump came along and said, regulations? We don't need no stinking regulations. Not only did he win them over, in his second inauguration, they were all sitting up on the stage with him. There was an entire section that looked like the full range of the autism spectrum. Kamala ran on democracy, which is the most important issue. But without the political skill to sell it, it added up to nothing. Meanwhile, Trump was running on, I'll make the poop go down.
So here's the bottom line, and try not to flinch. Bill Maher, a true lifelong liberal and a wealthy man who pays his taxes without hiding behind a team of accountants, just drew a line in the sand. The tax the rich sermon that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani have been preaching for years sounds great on a campaign stage but falls apart the second it meets real life. The rich are already paying mountains. And when the government takes that mountain and then fumbles it, wastes it, and mismanages it with zero accountability, people don't sit around and complain. They leave. And when they leave, the damage doesn't stay put. It travels from coast to coast. The real fight isn't about squeezing more money out of the wealthy. It's about fixing the broken, leaking, and completely brainless system that swallows billions and produces nothing. Tax the rich is just a slogan. Fixing the government is the actual cure America has been crying out for. And on that note, we wrap up today's video. If it hit the spot, smash that like button and subscribe for more straight talking breakdowns just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.